All right, good afternoon, everybody. As we get ready for uh, Monday, I really wanted to have this conversation with everyone about what my expectations are as we begin engaging in a situation that none of us have ever been a part of before. And I need to be very clear on how we need to respond during the next several weeks um, because it's going to be different. It's going to be challenging, and how we show up is going to matter the most for the support of our schools. So first and foremost, thank you for all that you have done and your work towards helping to create conditions that our folks can be successful in our buildings. The challenge that we have is that there is a belief, and I understand why, that why should, if schools are going back, principals going back, teachers are going back, then why isn't everybody else going back? Why isn't everybody else in a building? We need to make sure that anybody who can breathe can be in a building substituting. Well, the medical science that we are operating under has given us parameters of how I have to behave and conduct my facility here in ESE2, the ones over in 3, the ones over in 4, and everywhere else, as it relates to capacity, all right? Specifically as it relates to capacity. And so one of the things that you will receive again is that a template and a spreadsheet that asks you to make sure you identify your days that you are in ESE2. We are trying to make sure we build that out based on the 50% capacity that we have been asked to operate under, which means we've tried to put plexiglass in places. I mean, we've done a lot in order to ensure as much safety as we can for everybody that's on this call and even those who are not. So the work has actually gone into creating a space in an environment that I couldn't even tell you 6 months ago that we ever thought we would be in, all right? Walking around the building with a mask on is not what we were doing 6 months ago, right? And all of us going into our offices and closing the door, well, I mean, you kind of have to do that. I mean, that's just the nature of where we are. And our new norm is such that we have to protect ourselves and protect your neighbor and everything else in between. So I can't have everybody back. Now, we kick off Monday, all right? We kick off Monday bringing in our hybrid approach where there'll be a lot of kids coming back to school and a lot of stress points for teachers, a lot of stress points for principals, and anybody associated with kids now coming back into a space that they were not in before. You all know that as well as I do, okay? There's a lot of anxiety about that from teachers and staff, okay? Because they're dealing with the unknown, and I understand that. We've had more IRTs in the past 3 days than we've probably had since March. So things are happening around us, and I understand how that plays itself out. Now, in the midst of that, okay, I'm gonna be as honest with you and transparent with you as I possibly can. In the midst of that, how we show up is critical, okay? How we show up in support of our schools is critical. There are cases where we just can't go into schools and then start to add bodies into cohorts that we're trying to maintain a certain level and number of folks. I mean, so that puts a barrier around how we're able to support and the frequency in which we can support. But what that does not put a barrier around is our response. It is critical that we are responsive to our schools, especially when they are calling or sending notifications to us, or when we are meeting with them via Google Meets or Zoom or what have you, right? So when those opportunities show up, we have to be prepared. I want you to keep this in mind. Nobody in their right mind would believe that I would be at the beach right now. One, my hair's not blowing, so I know that's not the case. But that's just a backdrop, right? But I have to be very sensitive to the folks who are on the ground in buildings when I am communicating with them. I will not have this type of background. It will be more than likely in my office space anyway, but even if I were not, I will want to make sure that what they see behind me shows my commitment to whatever issues that they may be having or whatever supports that they need. That is not a time for me to be petting my dog or anything else. It's not. Sorry, it's not. One, we are on the clock, we're at work, and our job is to be responsive to the needs of our schools. Two, how we physically show up in our appearance matters as well. Okay, Monday morning, school is back in session with a group that's actually coming back to school, and how we appear, how we respond, and our professionalism matters. Now, don't get me wrong, if you don't think that they pay attention to those things, I've got some feedback that I can show you where principals have called that out specifically. And I would be remiss not to bring that to your attention to say it matters. It matters. Okay? People pay attention to what they see in this environment first than what you say. They will get to what you said, but the first thing they're going to pay attention to is what they see. So it is our responsibility to be prepared, be professional, and be ready to respond. Now, later this afternoon, you're going to get some information from my office that's going to give you the techniques you need to use in order to have your phones transferred from this building or whatever building you're in to your cell phones if necessary. There's a process that we put into place that you can actually use in order to have that happen. Another opportunity that you're going to get through this communication would be how to get yourself a Google number, Google Meets number, or whatever it's called, right? Because we just had some folks walk through that process. But if you have information that schools are communicating with you and you've got that worked out, okay, you've got that worked out. Just make sure that you're responsive to that. Make sure that you're responsive to that. You're also going to get another reminder that you need to let us know those days that you will be in the office, wherever that office happens to be, so that when I communicate that out, that's clear. It's clear and it's concise. So those are some things that you'll be getting over this weekend, and I hope that you can, if you have time, great. But by Monday afternoon, all that needs to be done. We need to be on the same page about being prepared and ready. And as I've said to you before, when I first started this, we've had more IRTs in the past 3 days than we've had since March. So there's going to be a lot of anxiety happening across our system that we're going to have to be responsive to, okay? Also, I want you to consider, we talked about pause and things that really are not as important in the first 2 weeks of this process that we may be able to pick up a little bit later. I'm asking you to consider what those things may be. Are there any things that you might have on your agenda that you believe need to be done that can actually be paused for a little while as schools figure out what in the world is going to be happening by the time they get to Friday? There's absolutely no way for me to fortune tell you and say, oh, I can forecast what Wednesday is going to look like. No, I can't. I have no idea. I just know what the past 4 days have been like. And if they're close to if Monday is close to what the past 4 days have been about, we have to be ready to support, period. We just have to be ready to support. So what I'm asking you, consider the fact that there's a lot that's happening right now. There'll be a lot going on when these kids show up. Kids may show up 30 minutes or 45 minutes earlier than normal, and schools are going to have to try and respond to that because of the way buses are being used. That's going to add pressure to a school in order to have coverage. So I want us to be considerate of the fact that our job over the next 10 days and more than anything else, be supportive, be responsive, and I don't want anybody to have to chase us down because we're not answering the phones or we're nowhere to be found. That does not work, and it can't work for us, okay? So that's really all that I wanted. It's game time Monday. It's game time Monday, and we all have to be prepared. So if you need to have your phones transferred, you'll get some information about that. If you need another access point, you'll get some information about that. And as it relates to when you're going to be in the office, those 3 or 4 days or whatever the case may be, I need that updated so that as I communicate out and I communicate to both leadership team and the board and to the community, here's what we're doing. We're not at home doing absolutely nothing. That's not the case. We're responding as best we can in the current circumstance that we are involved in. Okay? Listen, be safe, be safe, be safe, because this circumstance is not like anything any of us have ever experienced before. And if you don't feel well, don't come to work. If you don't feel well, do not come to work. Okay? It's that important. It's that critical. Okay? In any other circumstance, you all, you'd be here. A sore throat, whatever. No, a runny nose, I got it. Just a little tired. But under these conditions, I'm asking you to err on the side of caution. Don't come to work. Don't do it. And when you do, right, you have to maintain distancing and you have to wear your mask. As tough as that might be, you have to, okay? So other than that, I want everybody to have a great weekend. Let's get ready to rumble on Monday and support our schools and support each other. Reach out to each other if you're having questions and or concerns. Reach out to your directors because we're all in this together. And I'm going to ask you once again, right? This is sacrifice time for all of us. You have to minimize some of the things that you traditionally would do, because if you could see this virus, if you could smell this virus, or you could taste the virus, it would be different. You would know how to respond, but right now you can't do any of that. And so I'm just asking you to be as cautious and careful as you possibly can, all right? All right, that was it for me. Look forward to hearing from you guys and talking with you, and let's support our schools as we get back to work Monday. Take care.